In this short demo, we are going to show you a pre-configured ACI vPOD. Over here, we have our ACI fabric. Let's go to the fabric and let's look at the topology. And you will notice that I have a multi-pod over here with 3 pods, pod 1, pod 2, and pod 5. Pod 5 happens to be a virtual pod or a ACI vPOD. It has 2 virtual spines, 2 virtual leaves, and the AVE for the data plane. Now let's take a look inside the vPOD, and you're going to see that we have those virtual leaves and the virtual spines. You can go look at it from the topology view also, and it shows you a nice picture over here. And if you go to fabric membership, you're going to see all the different leaves and spines over there, including the virtual leaves and the virtual spines. In this scenario, what we have done is we've installed the virtual spines and the virtual leaves and the AVEs, as you can see in the diagram below. And that is for the vPOD, and the pod ID is pod 5. So now, for the data plane component, which is the AVE, we have stretched the AVE from pod 5 to pod 2. So the DVS, the underlying DVS for AVE, is stretched all across 2 different pods. One happens to be a physical pod, which is pod 2, and the other one is pod 5. The AVEs that are installed are the cloud AVEs on the vPOD side and the normal AVEs on the physical pod side. As you can see on the vPOD side, we have 2 ESXi bare metal hosts which have ESXi's installed on them. And on pod 2, which is the physical pod, we have 3 bare metals installed on them. These numbers are the last octet for the management, for the VM kernel management for each of these ESXi's. It also happens that on the left-hand side, on pod 2, we have a DVS, which is the normal DVS VMM integration that has been done with the APIC fabric. In this test scenario, we have 2 VMs, VM1 and VM2. VM1 is attached only on the physical side from gig 00, which happens to be in its own VRF, and it connects to the stretched EPG, which has this IP address of 61.61.61.0/24, that's the subnet, and it connects only to the physical side of pod 2 to ESXi 90. The second interface, which is gig 01, connects to the physical side on the DVS to ESXi 90, and that's on EPG 3, which has this subnet 62.62.62.0/24. VM2 is connected again to the same EPG, but it happens to be on pod 5, which is the vPOD side, and it connects to ESXi 24 through AVE. So as you recall, this is the same DVS for the virtual pod and the physical pod, and the AVEs are installed on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. The right-hand side being the virtual pod, so they have the cloud AVE, and the left-hand side, of course, is the normal AVE. I do want to point out that in this scenario, we have stretched the AVE across the physical pod and pod 5, which happens to be the vPOD. However, that was not necessary. We could have actually put the AVE only on pod 5. If that was the case, then you would have made a separate vCenter data center for pod 5. In this case, we've put the ESXi's in the same data center, and that's why we are able to stretch the AVE DVS across. To elaborate on what I was saying, if you look at the vCenter over here, we have a data center here called UCSB data center, and in there we have 2 production clusters, but they are all in the same data center. if you notice, the two ESXIs for vPOD are in this cluster, vPOD cluster, and the production cluster has those other three ESXIs. And that is the reason we are able to stretch the AVE DVS across the entire data center. And if you notice that the AVEs, the normal AVEs are on the physical side, and the cloud AVEs are on the vPOD side. Now looking at this from the APIC, you can see that I've built the tenant and I've built my EPG1 and EPG3. In this test scenario, we are not going to bother with EPG2, but I just wanted to show you a quick thing on EPG2. So as you notice, the domain on EPG1 has been associated with the AVE. And of course, this associating with the AVE means that because the AVE goes across the physical pod, port 2 and port 5, all those pods, port 2 and port 5, will have this stretched EPG. Also, if you look at EPG2, on EPG2, we've associated both the normal DVS, which only goes on port 2, and the AVE, which goes on port 2 and port 5. And if you look at EPG3, on EPG3, I have only associated the normal DVS, not the AVE, and this normal DVS only goes on port 2. If you wanted to have the AVE, the cloud AVE only on the vPOD side and not stretch it, then of course what you would have to do is you would have to make a new data center and give it a name. And then you would basically go ahead and put those hosts in there, in which case the AVE would only reside on the vPOD side and you would not stretch it. However, you would still be able to communicate from the hosts, from the endpoints that are on the vPOD side and the physical pod side. Now let's go ahead and take a look at where the vPOD was installed from. In other words, where the control plane components and the AVEs were installed from. Now notice that I am sitting over here on the flash interface of VMware vCenter. The reason is that the web interface, the web client, is not supported with the plugin at the moment. However, that support is coming soon. So let's go back to the flash interface, and then we go to the Cisco ACI Fabric, which is the plugin that was installed on this vCenter. Now, once you go in there, you go to, of course, the ACI Fabric over there will show you that it's been registered with the cluster of APICs. And let's go to infrastructure. And then once that comes up, we go to vPOD. And you're going to notice that the install was done from here. The image was put into the content library, and then they were installed from here. And basically, they were installed on these two hosts, as you can see over here, 23 and 24. And these are the management IPs of that. Now let's go take a look at the AVE. As you know by now, that on the AVE, we have the AVE stretched across the physical pod and the virtual pod. And if you notice over here, these are the two hosts which are on the virtual pod, and these are the hosts which are on the physical pod. And if you notice, it says cloud on the side over here because these are the cloud AVEs, and these are the normal AVEs. The DVS on which these AVEs reside is one stretched DVS. Let's take a quick look at the Bgp neighbors that were brought up when the virtual spines were installed. So first I'll do show VRF, just like a normal spine. You're going to see that there is an overlay one VRF over there. So let's do show BGP L2 VPN EVPN some VRF overlay -1, and you will see that it has the neighbor relationships to the spines of the physical pod, and these are L2VPN EVPN neighbors. Let's also quickly go ahead and take a look at the actual prefixes, and the prefixes, as you can see over here, that we are right now interested in are 6261. So I'm just going to do the same command now and take off the sum, and I'm going to go ahead and grep that just to filter out 61 and 62. So I'll do grep 61.61.61 and 62.62, and I can see that those endpoints, those /32s, are actually being learned, and they are basically BGP EVPN prefixes. Let's take a quick look at the BGP neighbors that were brought up when the virtual spines were installed. So first I'll do show VRF, just like a normal spine. You're going to see that there is an overlay 1 VRF over there. So let's do show BGP L2 VPN EVPN some VRF overlay -1, and you will see that it has the neighbor relationships to the spines of the physical pod, and these are L2VPN EVPN neighbors. Let's also quickly go ahead and take a look at the actual prefixes, and the prefixes, as you can see over here, that we are right now interested in are 6261. So I'm just going to do the same command now and take off the sum, and I'm going to go ahead and grep that just to filter out 61 and 62. So I'll do grep 61.61.61 and 62.62, and I can see that those endpoints, those /32s, are actually being learned, and they are basically BGP EVPN prefixes. Now we've SSH'd into VM1, which is over here, and if I do a show IP interface brief, you're going to see the two IPs over here, which are also shown in the diagram. Also, to show you, if I do show run interface gig 0/0, it's in its VRF gig 0, and 0/1, and that's in its VRF gig 1. So now let's try to ping from gig 0. So ping VRF gig 0 to 61.61.61.40, and it is working, as you see. And if I try to ping from gig 1 to there, so ping VRF gig 1 to 61.61.61.40, and that works also. So what you see over here is that from here we can go all the way across the IPN network, across the IP network, and come to the second VM. And of course they are on the same AVE. And we can also go there from the DVS side and then go across the IPN network, across the IPv4 network, and then come to the VM on the other side. Now let's take a look at a few commands that we can execute on the AVEs. There are more commands, but these are the interesting ones to show in a short period of time. So I have SSH'd into the two AVEs. The AVE on the physical side, which is the normal AVE, and then this one is the cloud AVE. So let's go to the normal AVE and let's do a VM status, and you can see that it's all looking good. And let's do the same on the cloud side, VM status, and you can see that's looking good. All right, let's look at the off-flex connections, and you can do VM command show off-flex, and you can see that off-flex is up and running over there. Let's do the same on the other side, and you can see that off-flex is looking good. By the way, on the cloud side, you have to do VM command show off-flex cloud because that's the cloud AVE. Now let's take a look at the ports. So show port, and you can see all the ports over here. It even shows you the VMs that are attached to the ports. And now let's do the same command on the other side, and let's clear this and VM command show port, and similar information is over here. You can see that I have I have a VM which is attached to PO1 over here. Now there are some commands, of course, which are only specific to the cloud AVE, because remember that the cloud AVE actually works like a leaf. So we can do a VM command show L3 table, and you can see that over here, and I can do a VM command show contracts, and I can even see which contracts are associated with which source and destination EPGs over here. Thank you for watching this demo.